Bristol has some pretty exciting history when it comes to how roads were developed. Tell me about that.
It was sort of 300 years ago. It was really quite difficult to get around this country. You have to remember that people didn't move around much, that they lived where they worked and they worked where they lived. And the roads were quite difficult and impassable at times. So the government came up with the idea of turnpikes, which is essentially a toll road. Before that, the roads were looked after by their parish, and not all parishes were able to deal with it, so these turnpike trusts were formed, and they were granted the right to charge a toll for the road on the basis that they maintained it. And and Bristol had the largest turnpike trust in the country. There were about 140 miles of road that the Bristol Turnpike Trust looked after. They weren't universally popular because people, resented having to pay for something that was once free. But nevertheless, they were. They did put money into the roads, and their engineer, they employed a surveyor in the early part of the 19th century, a guy called John Loudon McAdam, and he was a Scottish engineer. He'd made his fortune in America, but he invented this new type of road system, the macadam road system, and essentially it's a sort of mixture of interlocked stones with a sort of smaller layer of gravel on the top that keeps everything stable, and you get a camber on it as well, so it drains the water away. And this biggest advance in road building since the Roman times, basically, and invented right here in Bristol. The first one ran from behind St Stephen's Church out to Ashton Gate, where the football ground is now. That's why the football ground is called Ashton Gate, because there was literally a gate there, and that was the Turnpike Road. But also, of course, further tentacles, going up the Stapleton Road, and of course up the Gloucester Road as well. Major roads that linked major centres of population.
And the Gloucester Road now, all the way up through, is an issue that comes up lots with local residents. It's a very busy road. There are lots of independent shops which we all love on the high streets. There's discussions about whether we can put mass transit or better buses or rail underground or overground, and how all that's going to work there. But that road was, as you say, one of the first kind of smooth roads in the constituency, but the use of it has changed a lot in the years, presumably.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's always been the long distance road to Gloucester. It's called the Gloucester Road, and there's always been hold-ups on it. There used to be a toll gate, so that would have held people up. But it was a predominantly rural area, Horfield. In fact, it was a totally rural area. There were about 140 people living in Horfield around.
140.
140 people living in Horfield in 1801. There was about 7,000 by 1901, and I think there's about 14,000 live there just now. But it was it was the barracks that first brought people to Horfield. The construction of the barracks and the construction of the prison, the construction of Horfield Prison, because of course you'd had the riots in Bristol city centre, 1831, and they burnt down the city jail at Wapping Wharf. So they built this new jail up at Horfield. Of course, people who were working there needed to live somewhere nearby, and then they built the barracks nearby as well. But there were always coaching inns, farmhouses up there, but it's a very different area to that it was 200 years ago.
We've been talking to local residents about their local community, and what would be no surprise that the number one issue that comes up for a lot of people is transport. And when you talk about that, potholes come up all the time. So what is it about actually repairing the pothole that means that it keeps failing in the future?
Okay, well, I mean, fundamentally, you've got a point failure there, and as soon as you come in, there are lots of different techniques for mending them, and they're getting quite sophisticated and better and so on and so on. But you are effectively patching. Your shirt is wearing out. Is effectively like you keep patching bits of it, rather than going in and doing the lot again from scratch.
You mean the whole road, or you mean just taking out like a bigger chunk of it?
Well, typically, if you don't allow the foundation to fail, then what you need to do is come in and resurface on a regular basis. And as long as you keep that top surface in top quality condition, then your foundation won't deteriorate. But as soon as your top surface gets to a certain, you've got a pothole there, and you'll have another one there, then and so on and so forth. So that's broadly the issue. And you can imagine as well, if you've got a pothole in a discrete location, you come in and mend it, and you've got a discontinuity in the surface. Any discontinuity, that is going to the point where another failure is going to occur again.
Constituents obviously worry a lot about climate change, and I know there's been lots of things said about, putting things in the road so that your electric vehicle can charge up when you're at the traffic light. There was something about, I don't quite know how this would work, but attaching a kind of heat pump system to the tarmac to maintain the temperature to deal with those extreme weather patterns. Do you think any of these things are really going to be something that we're going to see on our roads anytime soon?
Yes and no. The heat pump thing, they have had for a number of years in Wageningen in the Netherlands, a road where they have deep pipes where during the summer they heat up, and then that is used in the winter to keep the road free from snow. So it's not that new an innovation, but broadly speaking, you begin to question the value and the benefit of that relative to more simply and more effectively and efficiently maintaining the road. If you keep it efficiently maintained, you don't need all of these complicated systems, which themselves will need maintaining and so on and so forth. And then materials in highways as well. I've been involved in projects where we are putting recycled glass in the bitumen in order to then reduce the amount of new material going in, quarried material. They are not like a quarry where you can go and gain thousands and thousands of tonnes. You get a discrete amount here and a discrete amount there from construction and demolition waste. And even the volume of, you can't make the road all of recycled glass. The volume that you can use of that is relatively limited. In a similar way, there are plastics. There's a company in Glasgow that puts recycled plastic into road. Again, that's good. It's reducing the amount of stone in the road, which is good, but there's a limit on that. So none of these panaceas. We've still fundamentally got this idea that we will have a bitumen road with principally quite a lot of stone in it. We can make most traction through recycling existing highway pavements. That will be where most of the kind of recycling will come in.